Thank you, everyone who's joining us here. My name is Kevin Groupie. I'm the sales and go-to-market leader for Deloitte's Salesforce Revenue Cloud practice. And today, we've got a really exciting webinar ahead of us. We've got a few leaders from Salesforce, Deloitte, and Imagine Learning to share a little bit about Imagine Learning's lead to cash and Salesforce journey, as well as some thought leadership on some of the great things coming out with Salesforce Revenue Cloud, as well as a lot of the exciting accelerators and assets that Deloitte is developing on the new Salesforce Revenue Cloud platform. Again, just walked you through that agenda and looking forward to some of that, and you'll see that moving forward here. And I'd just like to introduce a couple of today's presenters. So first we have Monique Lord. Monique's a Vice President of Business Transformation, Enterprise Systems and Data Solutions at Imagine Learning. Brian Schweers, the Senior Vice President, Revenue Cloud Solutions at Salesforce. Charan Singh, who's the U.S. Revenue Operations Leader for Deloitte Digital. And Chris Hain, our U.S. Revenue Cloud Leader at Deloitte Digital. So with that being said, Charan, I will turn it over to you to say hello and begin the discussion with Monique on her transformation at Imagine Learning.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. First of all, thanks, Brian, Monique, for being on the call. I know time is precious, and you taking time for this webinar is nothing but appreciated. Monique, a long time no see. We'll start with a couple of basic questions. Can you please describe what Imagine Learning does, and then we can go from there about our lead to cash transformation effort?
Sure. So Imagine Learning is the leading K-12 digital education and physical goods provider in the US. So we serve elementary, middle, and high schools all throughout the country and provide them digital first curriculum, whether that is a SaaS-based solution where kids are logging in and checking out our products and learning new math skills or literacy skills, all the way through to physical goods. So we deliver teacher textbooks and student books and science kits and all those things that kids are using in the classroom to help improve their education.
Thank you, Monique. We started this journey with a business case, and especially with phase zero, what we call it. And can you please describe why you actually felt that need and a little bit of a business case before we go into the implementation and how we did it together?
Sure. So Imagine Learning has grown a lot over the last 15 years through mergers and acquisitions, throughout small companies to larger companies to actually merging really large companies. And so that had created for us kind of a interesting ecosystem, I would say, of business solutions that we had. We were pretty disjointed. And as a digital SaaS product, we could really kind of power through having almost all subscription-based products. There really wasn't a lot of challenges that we couldn't figure out with kind of pushing our stuff together. But in 2019, we expanded into the physical goods market. So we joined into core curriculum, is what it's called in our space, for the first time. And I would say we didn't fully appreciate the level and effort and change required to go from a subscription-based model, a purely digital model, to now having to manufacture, produce, fulfill, and deliver items to not just anybody in the United States, but to school districts who may not have the same level of infrastructure that another company might be delivering to if you're trying to deliver to a Target or a Walmart, right? Where they have all of that infrastructure. So we found ourselves in a really tough spot. And we actually literally could not quote or fulfill orders. And that's when we knew we had to maybe do something a little bit differently. And we decided to select Salesforce and Salesforce CPQ in particular, and begin this journey that you were with us on, redefining the way we work, quite frankly. for 2 years.
Yeah, no, it was a great journey with you. Can you please describe how was Salesforce CPQ, how Salesforce CPQ played a role in the entire end-to-end transformation? I know that you had NetSuite before, and we had
Mhm.
to make some adjustment on the NetSuite side, but at the same time, can you please describe end-to-end process transformation? Because it was more that, and then followed by the technology implementation.
Yeah, so we ended up doing a full Sales Cloud CPQ implementation, and then it was a full end-to-end from Marketo as our lead generation, all the way through to NetSuite as continuing to be our ERP solution. And there were really kind of two major reasons why we selected Salesforce as our tool. One was the ecosystem and resources. Salesforce isn't just a tool that you're purchasing, it's an entire network of experts, partners, best practices, whether it's our Salesforce account team, a partner like Deloitte, or tapping into the broader Salesforce community to go see what are other people up to and building for. So we always know that somebody else has a similar problem that we're trying to solve out there that we can go tap into. So that was a big driver for us. The second one is just Salesforce's continued innovation and investment in its ecosystem. They are, since the 15 years that I've been using Salesforce, they're always coming out with something new, something different, a new way to improve. Stale is not something I could ever describe Salesforce. Of course, that comes with its good things and bad things related to that. But overall, I think Salesforce's commitment to the cutting edge of technology really benefits everyone. It benefits all of us on this call and everybody considering or currently using that ecosystem.
Great. And after going live, can you describe what are the maybe three major benefits you have seen with the business community?
Yeah, so I've been transparent with you and others, but quite frankly, we could have never done this project without Deloitte. And I believe that to my very soul. Right, the speed and scale at which we had to execute was so incredibly challenging. And Deloitte was able to provide, and your team was able to provide really a proven blueprint. We didn't have to go figure it out. You had one that was already tested, been leveraged by other organizations, and you still, and the team still made room for the uniqueness that was us, right? Being a provider to education. That may not have been something that you've done before, but you had done fulfillment before, fulfillment of physical goods before. And so being able to take that and really kind of learn and grow from that experience was one. The second one is that, for me, Deloitte wasn't just another vendor, right? You were a true partner. And you didn't just execute and do what I said, right? You pushed back on me. You said, hey, that's really not maybe a good idea. Always, of course, professionally, but you coached us, right? Many of my team members had never done Salesforce before, had never implemented Salesforce before, had never done, what is this thing you're calling agile, hybrid, what, waterfall, huh? Right? You were right there with us, helping us learn throughout that journey and challenging us. And quite frankly, that honest guidance was invaluable to our success.
We've done a lot of thinking over the years about, and you and I have both been part of this journey from sort of CPQ to quote to cash to what we've now been referring to revenue lifecycle management. We see other people is now talking about this as well. And I think it's an interesting time where what we're seeing is that customers are starting to bring together multiple tools. This idea of omni-channel versus multi-channel is a big part of that. And what it meant for us is that we needed to consolidate master data around the product catalog, pricing, configuration logic, et cetera, and then create a consistent platform that allows our customers to manage transactions from lead to cash or quote to cash or wherever, they want to start or end the process is fine. But they need to be able to do that consistently with a set of tools that can be personalized to customers, partners, inside users, sales reps, et cetera, support agents. And so we started to think about the future of Revenue Cloud as both a platform and an application. Customers still need applications like CPQ. And so within Revenue Cloud, there's certainly an end-to-end CPQ solution, a CLM solution, right? Order management, billing, et cetera. And so for customers that want to use those applications, either individually or collectively, it all works together, it's seamless. But what we see is another side of the market where they want to build their last mile, or where our partners like Deloitte can build the last mile. So in this application/platform, there's an API first approach, and this allows us to be composable, extensible, et cetera. And so let me walk you through a little bit of why we did this. And I am going to talk a little bit about the future. So I've got to flash our forward-looking statements. And of course, I always want to say thank you to all of our customers and partners. But to my earlier point, the way customers are buying and selling has changed. And so this was sort of the first piece of this, is we needed to understand what I referred to earlier as omni-channel buying and selling. The other change that's occurred is this notion of hybrid revenue models. When you and I started our careers, everything was a one-time charge. And then we started to see SaaS software, and subscription products became not just for software, but infrastructure as a service, right? Platform as a service, products as a service, imaging as a service, right? It just goes on and on, that we see businesses across every industry moving towards a subscription model. But then it went from term subscription to, in some cases, evergreen subscription. And then we started to see usage or consumption models. And what we see today are companies that didn't just go from a one-time charge to a term subscription, but they went to a world where different products are sold through different models. And so I may have things that I sell and ship to you as a one-time charge. I may have other products that are on a termed or evergreen subscription. May have other products that are consumption-based. And frankly, even here at Salesforce, we now have products that are both have a subscription component and a consumption component, right? And so you start to think about all the different ways that buyers and sellers need to interact. And we talked years ago about this idea of configure the deal, not the product. And this is where we're at now, where just from a CPQ perspective, I need to be able to create a quote that can have all of these different types of products on it. But I also need to be able to use that quote in a customer self-service motion or in a indirect partner selling motion. And all these things need to come together on a separate quote, and then they need to decompose and orchestrate across multiple fulfillments. And so this is sort of that big picture. And the problem is you can't do that with disjointed systems, right? It's no longer just CRM and ERP. There's CRM, ERP, and a million other little things in between that we've tried to put a circle around and called the middle office or whatever. But what we've done is we've thought about how all of those things really are front office operations that ought to be on your CRM platform, that because they all are ultimately customer-facing activity, and capturing those customer interactions in the C360 means then that I can use our agentic layer to begin to help our sellers make decisions that they otherwise could not if all of this information was in multiple databases. So this is another sort of big piece of the puzzle is bringing these disjointed pieces together into a unified data model, making them all extensible and composable so that our customers can use them at the time and place of their choosing. And that is what is Revenue Cloud, right? Our new Revenue Cloud on Core. It's a complete revenue platform built on the Salesforce platform. As I said, it's an application, but it is also a platform in that it's integrated with all of the other pieces of CRM. It's API first, it's composable, it supports every channel and every revenue model. If we look at that from sort of the platform play, these are all the different puzzle pieces that exist. We've got catalog management, obviously configurator is part of product catalog management. We've got price management. Then we've got the core CPQ that obviously leverages product and config and price master data. We've got to do pricing approvals. And then we convert, and maybe sometimes there's a contract that we convert a quote into a contract. Maybe I needed an MSA that governed the quote process. So that becomes an important part of the process. Ultimately, the goal of every quote is to convert it into an order and fulfill it. So not only are we doing order capture, but we're now doing order decomposition and orchestration. We're going to decompose it because the physical goods need to go to a WMS system or an ERP system. The digital goods need to go be activated. The timing of when I'm going to generate an invoice or revenue, recognize revenue may change. So this order orchestration and decomposition plays an important role to create those handshakes between creating the order and then all the tools that are involved in fulfilling the order. Once that happens, obviously assets are being created and they can be amended or renewed. So we're going to then full circle back. A customer wants to make an amendment or a renewal. We've got to go through the quoting process, fulfillment process, do proration, billing, etc. And then, of course, there's the billing piece. And the point is the reason we've got these separated out as we do is because our customers now can choose to consume any of these components. And because it's composable, they can use Flow and other tool capabilities to put them together to solve their unique business problems with Flow and hopefully not with code, right? Obviously, code is acceptable, but to the extent that we can eliminate the need or reduce the need for customization, then we think that's a better answer. So anyway, summarizing this first piece of it, then we feel like by focusing on these areas, we're able to bring products to market faster. We're able to help our reps close deals faster. And then we're able to ensure sort of the complete and accurate order data. And, the way we think about it is a perfect quote creates a perfect order creates a perfect invoice, right? So we want to get it right in the quote, and then we want to have seamless integration through the rest of that revenue lifecycle management process, including the back loop for amendments and renewals. The other thing that we've been working on, and you've probably heard a lot of press about, is Agentforce. And so with this spring release, we'll be introducing our first agentic skill. And so you see on this slide, we've got several different skills that we're building for Agentforce around Revenue Cloud. The first is the quoting skill, and we'll look at that in a little more detail. But then we've also got contracting skills, ordering skills, billing skills. We also see a world where not only can we help the runtime people with Agentforce or runtime users, but also the administrative users. How can I use Agentforce as a product data manager to more seamlessly or efficiently manage changes to the product catalog, or write configuration rules, or update my pricing? So the administrative side of this from an agent force perspective is just as important, because as Monique knows, care and feeding of a CPQ system takes a lot of work. So we want to empower our end users to work more efficiently and accurately, but at the same time, we will also want to think about all of the administrators that do support the system. So this is a little example. We're doing a pilot in spring for the quoting skill. And there's actually a demo that should get posted pretty soon, that walks through this process of using Agentforce in an opportunity to convert an opportunity to a quote. And the thing is as a sales rep, I'm going to ask Agentforce to do certain activities for me. But the agent actually has access to information that as a sales rep, I may not be aware of, right? It's all there in all of the multiple sales calls that have occurred over a long sales cycle. But do I really have time to go read 3 years worth of account history before I create the quote? Or can I ask agent to build the quote based on what's in the opportunity, but also consider the impact of all of the call logs, right? Of all the other information that's in the C360 to put that quote together. Once the agent does, I can review the quote. I can interact with the agent. What about this? I remember they said they needed that. What if we increase the level of support from, silver to gold, or are we considering their needs in Europe, right? Whatever the questions might be. And as we're having that interactive conversation, the agent can be searching through data and making recommendations, until I get to a point. And obviously I can touch the screen too, but to the extent that I can have the agent access information at a rate that's phenomenally faster than I could by going back through all my records. I get to that final version of a quote. I'm going to call the customer. I've got this quote together. I want to review it before I send it to you. Now I'm walking down through the quote that I've created with the agent. Customer says, yes, that sounds right, or change this, or actually, I forgot to tell you, but I need 15 instead of 10. I make those changes. And now, again, I can come back to that agent to help me craft the email to send this quote to the customer for signature, right? Quote comes back. Obviously, there's negotiations. But if you think about that entire process from converting an opportunity to a quote to ultimately getting a signature and converting it to an order, the quoting skill can help my buyer perform those tasks, right? So that, I think, is a pretty big deal. The other thing that we're introducing, and I'm very excited about, we're actually starting our beta test on our new advanced configurator. The advanced configurator is a constraint-based engine, and it allows us to do a number of things that the rules-based config just could never do, right? And ultimately, we'll see this blend where there's a place for Boolean logic, if this, then that, or if this, not that. But there's also a need for more advanced mathematics or constraints that allow us to make property-based decisions and other decisions much faster and much more efficient than writing 1,000 rules, right? We have one constraint that can solve what 1,000 Boolean logic rules might have done otherwise, which not only makes it more efficient to run, it makes it more efficient to manage, right? And then I think the last thing I'll share is we'll also introduce with the spring release our new Revenue Cloud billing solution on core. So with Revenue Cloud Advanced, we have basic invoice management capabilities, sort of the last mile of the order conversion. And what this does is brings in usage-based management and many of the other capabilities that our customers are currently using our Billing Plus solution for. So this is the full suite of billing that'll be launched in the spring. So anyway, let me just close with this sort of wrapping up, and I'll let you ask me any other questions. Some reasons why we think our customers should choose. Obviously, we talked about this complete revenue platform. We talked about the ability to support any channel. Obviously, the AI and insights are big. Any revenue model is important. We're seeing already customers that are implementing, benefiting from the composable architecture. And obviously, as you all know, with Salesforce CPQ, it wasn't quite so composable. So we flipped the switch pretty hard on that. And then I think also this alignment with sales, finance, and IT, and I need to add to this, and legal, because these are all stakeholders in a modern quote to cash process. It's not just, I'm going to sell you this piece of equipment, and as long as my price is within COGS, I'm good. There's now all sorts of implications that need finance and legal involved. And of course, we need IT to then take it and fulfill it. So these are all the reasons why we think what we've done is very unique in the market today, and the reasons why we think our customers will love it. So with that, anything I missed?
Yeah, well, I think if you don't mind going back to the previous slide, I think I'm very, very excited, and I would love to hear what Monique thinks about it. I mean, everybody talks about these days about AI and insights, which is great. I think that's many of our customers are looking for, especially who have already implemented Salesforce CPQ or Revenue Cloud. I think one of the things which I'm seeing in the market for the last couple of years is how to total monetize the revenue model. And I think that is extremely crucial for the future, not only one-time subscription usage-based, mainly it's a mix of model. And in fact, I will take you to the next level, token-based model. So I think looking at these things, I mean, all six are valid point, but those two things are extremely crucial, and I'm very, very excited about having this as part of Revenue Cloud. Monique, what do you think? I mean, I know you and I have had few conversations about this one in the past as well.
Yeah. It's all really exciting. In my opinion, some of our biggest challenges that we're facing currently as a company is any sales channel, right? We're trying to figure out how do we enable our customers to really purchase and interact with us how they want to, rather than how we're forcing them to, right? We're forcing them to use our sales model rather than meeting them where they are and how they might want to interact with us, and allowing that flexibility where I've got some customers that have been with us for 10 years. They don't need to talk to somebody. They just want to log in to a platform and hit replenish. Yep, let me move my things around and I'm good, right? I don't need anybody to call me. And then we have our other complete opposite end where we do have customers that know, like, I need you to help me through this and hold my hand and help me figure out exactly what my orders are. But can you also show me my orders in a way that I can understand and digest? So for me, that's probably the thing that is the most exciting out of this. And then I think the second piece is the agentic, and being able to really kind of capitalize on time-consuming tasks that we have to throw humans at, and now be able to still have a conversation, allow our salesperson to have a conversation around, for us being the largest digital first education provider in the country, we have a book bag of 30 products.
Yeah.
And that's hard for a salesperson to know exactly what product they should sell in what situation. And so having to talk to a human every single time, they got to figure out exactly what to sell because, they've been with us for 2 months, right? And you learn by doing, right? So that agentic aspect of being able to enable that salesperson to have a conversation, is it going to get it 100% right? No, of course not. But can we solve for 80% of the questions that I currently have to staff humans? So as my business scales, I now got a staff and order services team to then also scale with my business. And that's just not a sustainable model for us. So that's the second piece that I'm probably most excited about. And then the third one, I like couldn't agree more around the alignment between sales, finance, IT. I lead our IT team, but I'm, on the phone daily with my sales operations group, and I meet weekly with my finance team and legal, and how do we all talk the same language, be looking at the same data, and be, starting from the same point with the same source of truth. Super
No,
excited.
I love that. Thank you. And I will say, and back to your point on the agentic layer, and that's why the human stays in the loop, right? We're not asking this to be fully autonomous. What we're asking is for help.
Yeah.
How can I help this? And interestingly, that rep that's been on the job 2 months, the sales cycle started a year before he or she joined. And so all of the history of the deal is
Yeah.
captured in a C360, and that new agent doesn't know, right? He or she is there trying to close the deal, being able to pull from that knowledge and help her through the process is, yeah, big deal. But ultimately, she's got to review it and make sure it's right, right?
Yeah.
Of course, that doesn't go away. But
Yeah.
This goes back to your point, Monique, about the power of the platform. It's not just CPQ versus CRM versus billing. It's the power of the platform. How do we get there, Chris Hain?
So one of the things I heard Monique you say is that we brought a lot of accelerators and really helped jumpstart the platform. So this is our next iteration of that, is that we want to do what we call Revenue Cloud in a box. And we want to really take a lot of the things that Brian talked about and some of the things that he didn't even talk about, right? So I mean, they've got the unified product catalog, and they've got better, more complex attribute-based pricing, which we're very excited about. It's got a new UI. And there's little things in there, like it shows you dynamic pricing and waterfall pricing right in the UI, and we don't have to customize that anymore. So it's got a lot of nice little bells and whistles. It's built on the API first model, which is great because we can build things, or people can build things on top of it to extend the core platform and the functionality. But then we've taken a lot of what you saw in the implementation around kind of our expertise in doing this a number of times, and the accelerators we brought, and now we're really putting it into like what we call the opinionated revenue in a cloud box. So there's a lot of modules there, there's a lot of pieces and parts there, and we want to put together, based on our experience, kind of like, hey, this is what we think most companies need, so we can jumpstart even more our implementations for our customers. And if you're small enough, you could use it as is, or it allows you to focus in and hone in on the pieces that you really want to customize that are value add for your business. And so that's where Revenue Cloud in a box is sitting, right? So we've built it and we're keeping it updated. So we're looking for billing to come out next and add into it. And we're starting to add in the agent force, because the agents, I think, are going to be crucial, particularly as you get into complex selling situations, right? Whether you're pulling in information from your leads and your opportunities, and then how do I create my new quote, but then how do I create my renewal quotes, right? And then how do I suggest uplifts? So I think there's a lot that we can build in here, building on what Salesforce has given us, and then building customized solutions that address your specific needs. The question that a lot of people have is like, okay, that's great. How do I go from CPQ into Revenue Cloud? Because they are two different platforms within the system. And so we've put together like a migration strategy framework approach on how we do this. We start with a very quick, rapid assessment. It takes a couple of weeks, but we really bucket it down into 3 things, right? One is the process. So what are your journeys? How do you put the things together that are critical for your business on how you run it? And then how does that translate into the new Revenue Cloud models? We look at technology. It's like, what things have you customized? And then what do you need to recustomize, or what can you use as native out of the box functionality in Revenue Cloud? And so we've got tools that help go in and analyze the code and see where you've customized it, and see what do we need to carry over and what do we need to recreate on top of the new platform. And then the third, and probably one of the harder pieces, is like data. So now I've got a bunch of data in my CPQ system. I want to get it over to my new system. So for the standard objects, both master data and transactional data, we've created a series. It's a managed package, but it's a series of scripts to move the data over. Don't do the transformation. So like if you have 200,000 SKUs, it won't help us transform and rationalize that, but it can move it over so we can quickly see how it would work in the new system. And then we can iterate from there to say, okay, how do I start taking advantage of the richer product catalog that I have, and the different pricing rules and the order orchestration rules. So it allows us to quickly come up to speed, and so we can start seeing and playing with the new system, with your data, to see what we need to adjust and what are the best ways to take advantage of the platform. So we're super excited about everything that is here in Revenue Cloud and what's coming, right? All the way from quoting to invoicing. We're looking forward to the billing, and then all the way for us to get it through revenue recognition. So the quick little sales plug is, this is our practice, right? We've got a ton of expertise. So Monica, you said you've got 15 years. We've got a bunch of people who are 20 years with CPQ. So that's perfect. That's great. We love it. We focus on business outcomes. I think you could probably attest to this, but we don't start as this is a technology platform. We start that this is something that we want to look to see, how do we enable you and your users, your salespeople, your service people, to be able to get the most out of the system and enable your customers to get the most out of your own products. And that's one of the reasons that we have such great success at companies. And then the Revenue Cloud transformation, I won't drain it, but it does everything. And we don't just pick and piece parts. We look at, how do you manage your accounts? How do you manage your opportunities? But then how do you do your quoting? All the way through making sure you're doing your right contracting. How do you get into your entitlements and your fulfillments? All the way through, how do I actually get my revenue into my GL so that I can recognize it correctly? So it's I think, Brian, you said the messy middle. It's a huge problem that we've got a lot of expertise. And with revenue in a cloud, we're taking a lot of our standard processes and really trying to codify them in an implementation that we can use to jumpstart a lot of projects going forward.
Great, thanks, Chris, and Monique as well. I mean, what a great conversation. Having one of our favorite clients, and Brian, you're long time partnering with you, having you on the call as well. So time well spent. Thanks, Chris, walking us through the Revenue Cloud practice. I'm handing over back to Kevin for any final comments and thoughts.
No, thank you, Charan, and Brian, Monique, Chris, thank you all as well. A really, really great conversation. In closing, just I think it's a really, really exciting time at Salesforce, and specifically with a lot of the new things coming out with Revenue Cloud. And Brian, really appreciate the forward look into that. And ultimately, we're just really excited to continue to drive success for our clients and continue to have success stories like Monique's at Imagine Learning. So thank you all again for the time today.